Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome back. I'm Janet and I'm working through the book of Genesis within the King James's Bible. Today I am on chapter 35, working through to chapter 37 in this video. So we will get moving on straight away with Genesis 35 because, as always, there is a lot of content in each chapter. So if we remember, yesterday there was a massacre which was just horrendous, really. Jacob's sons just got totally out of control. It was like one wrong and they doubly did wrong to the point where it was just obscene. It was just awful. So in this chapter 35, Jacob is laying down the law. God first tells him to go towards Bethel, move towards that place where, when he fled his brother, Esau, when he fled him the first time and God met him there. So he goes there and he tells his family, this is where we're going. And he asks them to bring every false god and every earring that they have, just bring it up, and that they all had to purify themselves and change their clothes and meet him at the oak tree. And Jacob then digs a hole and he puts all of these false idols and earrings into this huge hole and just buries it. And he said that in Bethel they would all repent for their sins, all of them. And Jacob then would build an altar at Bethel to God, and that would be where they worship him. So they set off for Bethel, all of them. And while they did this, the surrounding villagers, obviously, that heard about the massacre that's gone on, decide they want to go and they want to find them and they want to kill them. But God intervenes and he puts the fear into them and they decide not to do it. They just stop. They don't follow him because obviously they have repented and God is moving them on. It's like the slate is kind of clean in God's eyes. That's how he's looking at it. They've repented. So the families that want to go and kill him decide not to. They stay where they are and just are happy that they've left their town. So when Jacob gets to Bethel, he then builds this altar, as he said, for God. And he repented for his evil and his family's evil. And in that repenting, God forgives him. God then appears to Jacob and he repeats the promise that he made both to Abraham and to Isaac. And it's now passed down to Jacob that, you will get all the nations and these lands and you will be fruitful and you will multiply. These are given again to Jacob. And God then, after this, allows Rachel to conceive again. So she's able to have another child while they're journeying to Bethel. And so Jacob gathers his family and they move along to Bethel. And on the way, Rachel begins to give birth. But this time, there is problems with the labour. She's in real pain and distress. And the problems get worse and she conceives a boy. His name is Benjamin. But in doing so, she loses her life. She is no longer alive. For the birth was just too much, and obviously Jacob is so distraught, he's so upset, and he just mourns the loss of his one true love, Rachel. And so he mourns with his family for many days, and then they set off again for Bethel. And Reuben, one of his sons, on this journey sleeps with Jacob's concubine, Bilhah. This is the servant that Rachel gave to Jacob. And this brought great shame onto Jacob. It's like, just as he's going through all of this, like this extra. So he's got all that to contend with as he's travelling on, a grief, and now this. And Jacob visits home to see Isaac, his father. It's almost like get to a place where, you can get some grounding with your parents. So he moves towards where Abraham first set up this family, this community, and where now Isaac is living. He goes, visits there. He goes to see his father for the last time, because this is when Isaac finally passes away, and he's at an age 180 years old. So Jacob sends word to his brother Esau, and they come together and they bury their father. And that closes chapter 35. So quite a journey has been had, leaving Shechem towards Bethel. So here we go, we're moving on now to chapter 36, and this one is basically more a genealogy, so we're going down the family line of Esau this time. This one I think is best you read yourself. There's a lot of names, I'm not going to go into great detail, just give a quick synopsis over the top and then read it yourself when you can. So this is chapter 36, so we see the family line of Esau, and Esau had wives from Canaan. These wives, he had 3 wives, which is Ada. She is the daughter of Elon the Hittite. Excuse my pronunciation with these. Aholibana, and she is the daughter of Anna and granddaughter of Zibron the Levite. And then Basemath, which is the daughter of Ishmael and the sister of Nebathal. If I've got these names right, but I mean, if you've got the words in front of you, then you'll know what they are. So if we look at that, so we've got Esau, and he's got 3 wives, and then they have sons. So Ada, she has Eliphaz. Basemath, she has Revel. Obaliman, she has Jeshua, Salem, and Koran. So they are all the sons. He has 5 sons there. So once we go through this, we see Esau took everything his family has, his cattle, his everything, he's like gathered together, his gods. So he's obviously praying to a false god, not the real God. That's the difference with Esau instead of Jacob. There's a difference there. And he separates himself away from Jacob and his family because they've got too grand. They've both been blessed. They've both got really lots of wealth and land, but their livestock is too grand to stay in the one land. So Esau decides he's going to separate. And so he moves away to Siri. That's where it becomes the Adamites. And then in the last part, it describes the descendants of Esau. So that is something that you'll want to read yourself. But they became Edom. So that closes up our chapter 36. I hope that was of use to you. It's just showing you the breakdown really of Esau, and that he's separated from his brother. That's kind of it. And then the descendants. So that kind of covers chapter 36. Chapter 37. Now this one you might know from a musical called Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, because this is where I know it from, and this is kind of where the musical has taken its story from. So here we go. Now Joseph is Jacob's first son to Rachel, his true love. That's who Joseph is. And we see in chapter 37, Jacob sent Joseph out to check on his brothers, because his brothers are looking after Jacob's flocks. So he sends Jacob as sort of like a spy to go in to make sure they're doing what they should be doing. And he goes in, and Joseph looks at them and sees they're not really taking that great. And he comes back and he basically tells his father they're not doing that. And then the brothers, they come back because he's going on and on, Joseph, to them like, you should be doing this. It's sort of like he's scolding them, and they know that he's been snitching on him to their father. Which in my eyes wouldn't be a good thing when you see what these brothers have done. You know, they've pretty much created a bloodbath back in the other village. So, you know, he's walking on thin lines with these guys. So we see Joseph going back and telling his father what they'd done. Now the next thing that rubs more sort of salt into the wound of his brothers, like envy and just hatred towards him, is that Jacob actually, he makes this colourful jacket for Joseph to show him how much he loves him, you know, and that he is his own true love. So then he's wearing this jacket, which is going to make the other brothers envious, because he's like walking around like, I'm the colourful one, I'm the one my father loves the most, kind of thing. And then to top it off, now we have Joseph, who goes and explains 2 dreams that he's had. And the first dream is, everyone, he said, was tying up bundles of wheat in the, obviously the farmers, so they're tying up bundles of wheat. He sees them all, his brothers and him. And Joseph's bundle stands up. His is upright, strong, whereas all the other brothers' wheat is bowing down to Joseph's. And then he has a second dream, and in the second dream, he's standing amongst the sun and the moon and the stars. He said, just come down, and they bow towards him. He says, and all the stars came and bowed down to him. And his brothers scream at him, and they're like, and mocking him, saying, are we really going to worship you? And even his father Jacob looks and says, really? Am I going to bow down to you as well? So he kind of keeps this in his mind, Jacob, but whereas his brothers take it another step, they're starting to get really, it's just like, oh, I hate him, he is just... And so they go back out on their daily work, and they're going out to the fields, working on taking care of the sheep. And Jacob says to them again, Jacob says to Joseph, go out and check on them. And so the brothers are out there tending to the flocks, and they see in the distance, they see their brother Joseph coming, and they think, we've got to have a plan here. We need a plan. Why don't we kill him? Right? And we can get an animal, and we can just say that he's been killed by a wild animal. I'm like, yeah, we'll do that. That's what we'll do. Then as he's getting closer, Reuben has a thought, oh, why don't we put him into a well, an empty well, so he'll starve to death? Why don't we do that? Because he's thinking, if they do that, he can then go and rescue him. And then he'll look like the favoured one because he saved his golden boy. So they're like, the other brothers are like, okay, yeah, let's do that. So that's what they do. When Joseph comes, they grab him, they take off his jacket, and they put him down in this well. And they leave him in there, and then they go back to their flocks. So they're getting on with the flocks, looking after them. And then all of a sudden they see this caravan going towards Egypt. And a group of the brothers think, got an idea. Why don't we sell him as a slave? They're like, yeah, that's brilliant. So this group go out, get him out of the well, and they sell him to these people going to Egypt. And so Joseph ends up going to Egypt. And when he gets there, he's sold to one of the Pharaoh's officials named Potiphar. Now, when Reuben returns and finds out his group of his brothers have done this, he's like, what have you done? He's like so annoyed because obviously the plan he had is now dashed. It's no longer going to work out. So what the brothers now do is they get a goat, they kill it, and they get the blood and just cover the jacket in it, and then they take it to Jacob and they say, look, is this, what's this? Is this your jacket? Is this Joseph's jacket? And his father Jacob looks at it and says, yes, it is. That is Jacob's jacket. It's like, oh, he must have been killed by a wild animal. And he just assumes that's what's happened to him. And none of the brothers agree. Like, none of the brothers say that's not true. They actually just allow him to think that. They allow the deception to go on. They don't clarify. They don't tell the truth. They're quite evil, these bunch of brothers. And, so Jacob mourns now his favourite son, and I mean he mourns, and like they try to console him, some of the people around, and he's just like, this will be with me for life. I will never come to terms with losing my son. So that takes us to the end of chapter 37, and we are left now with Jacob really upset, that he's lost his favourite son, and his favourite son is now a slave in Egypt. And we have at the start where he was putting down the law, trying to get his sons to see the right, to do the right thing. And they're just kind of constantly just going into this dark side, just constantly It's like a will, some kind of deeper will in them that they just want what they want. And it's like, it's being reinforced as well. When you see like Jacob giving his son a colourful jacket, it's almost like there he's glorifying him above them. So it's making them feel less than, which is going to make them feel angry. You know, they're getting very angry about that. And then Joseph himself is then rubbing it in by he's going on about dreaming, like that he's better than them, you know. So it's like Jacob's sort of in one way, he's got this, but in idolizing, he idolized one person, which is the Lord, and then he's idolizing his son. And by doing that, he's creating this war within his family. And then the son he's idolizing is also elevating himself onto this pedestal. It's like, so nobody should be an idol in our lives. We're all equal. That's how I would see this story. We're equal. We're not to be put on a pedestal. When you do that, that is the demise of the person, because they'll get inflated unless they're really grounded in themselves, and we become inferior, and which we're not. We're all the same. There's no inferior or superior. We are all the same. That's what we have to keep realizing. It's like, we do it with so many things in this world, though, don't we? With wealth. I know in the UK here we have the class system, which I just don't like at all. You know, it puts us in brackets of upper class, middle class, lower class. You can call them the working class, which is like slaves. You know, it really hasn't moved on from that. So you do see how these structures from the Bible are still playing out today in different ways. But yeah, it's still very much, we are continuing this legacy of the Bible. And if there's anything to read from the Bible, it's to turn it around. Don't repeat history, which is a lot of these stories are repeating themselves. And look for the wisdom in each story. How can it whoosh, change your life around? You know, bring you some deeper insight that you can shift and make your life better, and not learn from the mistakes of others and not repeat what has happened. That's key, I think, in reading these 3 chapters. Okay, so I think that's it from me today, and we'll be back again tomorrow, moving on through more chapters within Genesis. Take care, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.